I'm going to be interviewing them. So this was billed. Oh, I forgot to say, particularly warm welcome to anyone if it's your first time. Really, really good to have you here at Dharma. My name's Arthasiddhi. I'm one of the team here, and I'm very, very pleased that we have here with us Maitrighosha and Sugarbha, both very dear friends of mine. I'm pleased for a number of reasons. One is I'm really looking forward to interviewing them both. I'm very grateful that they stepped in because it was meant to be Priya Chakshu, me interviewing Priya Chakshu, who was born actually half Romanian, half Gypsy. And I was going to be interviewing him tonight about that experience in this theme that we're exploring. Unfortunately, he got ill, and I found that out yesterday. So I'm also very grateful that my dear friends were willing to step in at very short notice to be interviewed on something they knew not what. But they both did actually say yes very, very quickly. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that, and we'll see where we get to. We're going to be kind of obviously we've had to sort of reimagine this a little bit, but just by way of a little bit of introduction to the both of them. Sugarbha here lives out in Barcelona. I won't say too much actually, because I'll let them say a bit more about their own experience, because we're looking at the practice of internationality. So I'll let them talk about that themselves. But Sugarbha's a very, very dear friend of mine. Probably one of my closest friends. We were ordained together, and. I think with Sugarbha, I sort of he lives over in Barcelona, but I sort of feel like I work with him really. I feel like the work he's doing over in Barcelona is the work I'm doing here in Cambridge, and I felt that for years really. In a way, actually, I'd say that our friendship has actually deepened whilst we've. Because we lived together at a certain point for a number of years, but actually I think our friendship has deepened whilst we've not been living in the same country, which is not an easy thing to do, but I think that is certainly true. So yeah, very, very good friend, a man who I admire very much actually, what he's done over in Barcelona. So I'm really, really pleased that he's come to and said yes to being interviewed. And Maitrighosha is also a dear friend. Maitrighosha and I work together unloading containers in a Buddhist business. I managed to coax him. Maitrighosha's very highly educated, and I managed to coax him out of the office into the dusty warehouse, which he absolutely loved, and partly loved because Maitrighosha's got a very keen sense of fun. He's a very, very playful man, very, very cheeky. Yeah, whereas I'm very serious, never cheeky. Yeah. So actually, that was probably one of the best experiences I had of team working in a team of Buddhists, working together very, very closely. But Maitrighosha, along with some other close friends, was very much a part of that. Just a lot of fun actually. One of the we'd get Buddhists coming from around the world actually, and two young Buddhists came, and they were kind of really earnest and serious. They were expecting a kind of sort of Zen monastery type version of a warehouse, a Buddhist warehouse, and they were a bit in shock that we had so much fun, but also very relieved after a few months that it was actually so fun. So yeah, we gave them kind of Buddhist culture shock. Anyway, yeah, I'm really pleased that Maitrighosha, dear friend, said yes as well. And so our theme, we're exploring this area of the practice of internationality. And I guess what this is getting at, the Buddha tells us that we don't actually see things as they are. That's what the Buddha, that was in a nutshell what the Buddha's kind of message was, that it is possible to see things as they are, and we don't see things as they are, not directly. Instead, we see things kind of mediated through a kind of framework of views. So one way that we've been exploring this, drawing on a sutta called the Honeyball Sutta, is that actually we see and experience the world sort of once removed from our direct experience. We have a sort of secondary experience, as I say, mediated through a kind of framework of views. And this leads ultimately to social conflict. This is the origins, the Buddha's analysis of the origins of social conflict. Very little of that framework is actually our conscious devising, and it's very, very hard to see. We don't think we don't see things as they are. We think we do see things as they are. Our senses confirm it, don't they? So it's very, very hard to see how we're doing this. And that's where the practice of internationality is very valuable. We can see it when we run up against somebody else's kind of conditioned framework of understanding. Because I'm not talking about theory, I'm talking about what we actually see and therefore experience. So when we come into contact, into collision with someone else's sort of national conditioning, that's another way of talking about it, we suddenly are brought into contact with our own conditioning, our own sort of conditioned views. So that's what's been got at by this kind of secondary experience. So what is more noticeable is that actually this is sort of built, it's constructed with our prapancha, this Buddhist word prapancha, which is this automatic thinking that's going on as soon as we close our eyes to meditate. It's going on more than that, but that's when we see it. And that is kind of constructing this framework of views unawares. And then, so mindfulness is essentially about kind of coming back to our primary experience, just our sort of ordinary physical immediate experience. However, this primary experience isn't merely the kind of ordinary experience of just being embodied. The Buddha was talked of as nisprapancha. So the Buddha just didn't experience prapancha. So primary experience, it's not just every day, actually it has depth. It has depth. If we come into our immediate experience, that can go all the way to enlightenment, really. So primary experience spans from our ordinary, immediate, just kind of feeling what's going on in the body, all the way to enlightened experience. Yeah. So just to say that, primary experience. So this kind of this exposition of primary and secondary experience basically covers the whole of the spiritual life. Really, that's in a nutshell what I'm trying to say. And the practice of internationality is a way of kind of confronting our conditioning, as I say, sort of colliding into someone else's conditioning, in order that we can actually realise that we're in a secondary constructed experience, so we can come back to our primary direct experience. Mostly we don't notice it. and therefore we can't step out of it. It's only if we actually notice it. So that's the value of the practice of internationality. And the reason why Sugarbha and Maitrighosha are good people to ask about this is because they both left their cultures actually quite a long time ago. In fact, Sugarbha's left his culture twice. He came over, I think, well, anyway, I won't say too much, but came over to England and then has later moved to Spain. Maitrighosha came over a good while ago from Mexico, as you've heard, to kind of work here. So, yeah, another way of talking about this is going forth from your culture. That's what they've both done at least, well, actually, at least twice. You've done it about 5 times. Yeah. So just to now move into the interview. Could we just start with just actually very simply, you both just filling us all in on when and why did you leave or go forth from your culture. Sugarbha, would you start?
Yeah, well, thanks. First of all, thanks very much, Arthasiddhi, for inviting me to do this. It's a great pleasure to be back in the centre here in Cambridge. So yeah, I'm originally from Ireland, and I grew up there in the 70s and 80s. And when I was 19, I came across Triratna Buddhism. I was into the whole punk metal movement, sort of quite nihilistic and anarchic, I think. But I had always had a strong sense of friendship. And I got very involved with Triratna quite quickly. I'm from a town 1 hour from Dublin, and Triratna was being set up, I think it was around 89 in Dublin, so that's when I got involved. And I soon realised I had my own life up and running, my flat, my work, but I felt quite quickly that I needed to make the plunge, as I thought. I didn't really understand Buddhism, actually, but I think I seen there was meaning here and there was an opportunity to radically change my life, because I think I was actually unhappy, quite unhappy, even though I had a basic level of things sorted out. So I decided to move to London to get more involved with Triratna, and I moved to London in '93. And that's my initial kind of involvement. Is that enough?
That's great. Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, that's great.
You got 3 hours? No, originally from Mexico. I came 2004, and like Arthasiddhi said to the office, and thank you very much, Arthasiddhi, for inviting me, and with dear friend Sugarbha. I work very closely with Sugarbha in the same team, ordination team for Spain. So, which is a delight. So yeah, answering your question, why did I come here? I got involved in 2002 in the Mexico Buddhist Centre, and there were only 3 other members there. And I really wanted to come to the source. I wanted to be where it was founded and come to to meet senior other members. And of course, there was a sense of adventure. I wanted to go out, but I was very, very clear. I wanted to really deepen my commitment in Buddhism. I felt I came across the Dharma too late, when I was 29 years old. So, and I said, well, I wasted so much time, because since my teenagers I was looking for some sense of, since very young I had a very strong sense of spiritual urgency. I almost became a Catholic priest, and I got very disappointed. And then I explored a lot of New Age stuff. I was 8 years in a New Age movement, and I became director of one of those the last 2 years. And out of that came catastrophe, a very, very painful experience. And then I moved to Mexico City, and in that kind of crisis, funny enough, I knew that sports would always kind of take me out of a sense of crisis. And the only thing I could find was yoga and Tai Chi, and it was in a Buddhist center. And I was very suspicious by then of any kind of religion. But I had a lot of intuition about meditation since very young age. And then I heard the Dharma, and I was very impressed. I did a degree on humanities, major in philosophy and minor in music. And I was really impressed by the sophistication of the Buddhist philosophy, especially a kind of non-dogmatic approach. And I loved it. And then that led me to commit. And then Upeksha Mati, the founder of Mexico Buddhist Centre, convinced me to leave my job. And my first work was as manager of the Mexico Buddhist Centre. And 1 year later, I came to Cambridge. Thankfully, a Mexican Northern member convinced Keturaya to receive me, and Keturaya is one of my Kalyana Mitras, a very dear friend. And so I came to Cambridge. And so yeah, and another reason, I wanted to escape my family. I felt really, I felt really kind of trapped. Even for Mexican families, I was a bit of a weirdo, because Mexico is very, very kind of the family is really, really important, but I felt really trapped. So I wanted to also kind of leave that. And I said to myself, I just come 2 years, get ordained, very cocky, very proud. So I just come here and get ordained and go back to Mexico and set up a new Buddhist center. And obviously life had other plans for me. And so then I went to Oslo, then to Bujialoca, and now Valencia, Spain. So it's been 22 years, 21 years I've been away from Mexico. Yeah.
Great, thanks both. Yeah, so what I want to ask you about is part of this practice of internationality is kind of intensifying your contact with another culture. So, I mean, we've all got, to varying degrees, contact with other cultures, particularly in Cambridge, which is quite multinational, international. But that doesn't necessarily mean you run up against your own conditioning. It's quite easy in a way for us to sort of keep a safe distance, actually. So for you, even though actually for both of you it sounds like kind of experience in another culture wasn't top on your list to bring you over, what were the moments, what were the instances that did intensify your contact? The conflict or confrontation between your culture and your cultural conditioning and the conditioning of the culture that you were coming into. Sugarbha, would you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, I think there's probably different levels of that happens. I mean, I think one of the first levels of it is you lose your references. So you lose the reference about land. So the land that you're from, literally the land, the place names, the towns, the city that you've had experiences in, or that you knew people in, and that helped form you. I think all of that's like a kind of metaphorical kind of cauldron. And where I come from, we speak English, but I'd say it's a better form of English, with all due respect. It's more poetic. It might not be as accurate, but it's more poetic. Sorry. And when I moved over to London, I couldn't use certain turns of phrases or even certain words, because people wouldn't know what I was talking about, even though it's the same language. So, that's another thing as well. There's probably cultural, I don't know, there's a cultural atmosphere, isn't there, in countries? They've got a different sort of atmosphere. So there's all of that. I became aware I was in another culture without my kind of cultural reference points. Metaphorically speaking, where I'm from, the post boxes are green, the buses are green here, they're red, the buses are red. All of these things have an effect. So that I think that was one of the initial senses, almost of a certain sort of displacement, if you like. And I think there's a process after that of deepening into a perspective on your own culture based on the one that you're in, and you have to root into it. You've got to root into it. And maybe just finish off by saying, in my case, I think I tried to make the most of English culture, you know, and you know, even today, probably most of my closest friends are English, so you kind of, you know, you kind of begin to, through all of that, you know, you become more, there's a sort of lifting of awareness, isn't there? You become more aware. Yeah, so that was helpful.
Yeah. And anything from your experience in Spain, what have been the sort of the points of contact, the sort of
in the same sort of way, the contrasts. I think that's been quite different because I'd been living here 15 years before I moved there, so I'd sort of done some work. Is there any Spanish people here?
Yeah, be careful.
No, they're wonderful people. I think because I'm quite reserved. I'm quite reserved, and they're not. That was one of the first things. You know, I think I've had to become more extroverted since I moved there, and being able to engage more with people immediately. So that was an initial thing, you know, of sorts. And of course, the language. You know, working in another language is quite something. Yeah,
makes sense. Would you say a bit more about that process for you of being more reserved and then coming into contact with a culture that's less reserved, that's more?
I mean, I think for me, that's come about through working in Spanish mainly, you know, and kind of being with people and just sort of, I don't know, it's slightly infectious, you know, you end up kind of becoming it a bit, despite yourself, you know.
And was that kind of immediate, or was there resistance to that initially? Or?
Yeah, there was resistance. There was resistance to it. Yeah, I think I had to come more out of myself, you know, to meet something, and that was good. And also there was a sort of sense of, well, I mean, sometimes I get frustrated because at the end of our retreats, we call it the Spanish goodbye. It takes an hour to say goodbye. I mean, you know, it's great. I mean, you know, my thing would be, you know, a quick goodbye. And I've seen the value of that because people have really connected on a retreat, and they want to be together more, and you know, they want to. There's something more communal about it, so that's been very good. And I've had to see that actually that's more valuable than my natural way through my conditioning.
Right.
I think, you know, the way people engage with pujas is amazing. You know, the pujas are the same puja we do. If you're new, that's a Buddhist ritual that we perform. But they'll perform that with a natural sort of response to something higher, even if they don't know much about Buddhism. Yeah. So there's something. Yeah.
So is it possible to say what conditioning in that sort of initial resistance? What conditioning was kind of being confronted and sort of reflected back for you?
That's a very good question. It's hard to pinpoint that, but I think probably something of a natural kind of reserve from my family conditioning, and a tendency to maybe keep a low profile.
Yeah. And so was that in some way something that you? Okay, how to put this? That was part of your culture, so presumably, it had sort of positive elements to it, and then you were kind of coming into contact with quite a different culture. So what were the sort of positive elements of that, and how did that contrast?
The positive elements of that in me? Yeah. I think probably a bit more reflective, a bit more contemplative, valued stillness, valued a particular intimacy of friendship that you don't get immediately in Spain, because it's a very kind of, on our retreats people meet in groups. You don't get people meeting one-to-one. They think that's really weird. So, there's something valuable in that sort of connecting in an intimate way with reflection or friendship or something like that. And I think then the other side of that is just not being too attached to that and developing another side of yourself where you can go out to people in a new way, engage people. Yeah. In a way, you're developing more, I suppose, robustness in a particular sort of way. Yeah,
great. Thanks very much, Sugarbha. How about you, Maitrighosha?
Remind me a question.
So it's instances of kind of your cultural conditioning kind of colliding with another culture in a way. Or instances of intensification of that contact,
I'm thinking the strongest one was the way of relating and communication. But I have to say something that I come from a family where most are deaf, completely deaf, so it was a really particular kind of a culture of deaf people. They even call it that. And but coming here is just so common to interrupt and don't stop talking. And I found that painful, so I have to learn to interrupt less and listen more. I'm still learning that. But
you're doing very well. You're doing very well.
Thank you very much. Understanding. And I think my friends have been very, very patient. But something related to what Sugarbha said, that I think I found out actually, believe it or not, Mexican and Spaniards are definitely not the same, are quite different. And believe it or not, Spaniards are noisier and louder than Mexicans. And I think even I heard from Oxelanda and some people have gone to Mexico and Spain, and they said that there is much more sense of politeness in Mexico. And something that really struck me, that I saw it differently in different parts, being living in Mexico, in UK, Oslo, and Spain, is the sense of trust and confidence. For example, I was just hearing from someone that say in Mexico you don't trust the police, you don't trust, but you trust the earth and you trust. But there is a sense of receptivity. There is no. I see it so strong in Spain. The sense of distrust to institutions and the lack of receptivity, and in England there has that, but not as strong as in Spain. So that kind of really struck me. But in a more kind of meaningful way for me was learning how to relate it's not very effusive, very emotional like maybe Latin Americans or Spanish, but I learned the depth sense of friendship here in Cambridge. But I think that's very much the Trirana culture, really learned the value of friendship. And for me, that's the most intense, the most beautiful thing I really gained from that. So way of relating.
So what conditioning was that sort of confronting when you came into contact with that culture of deepening friendship?
I think it's a combination of different things, but it's not being able to. I think if you meet more than 2 or 3 people, you see it even very strong in Spain. So they become very emotional. They say I love you very, very easily.
Oh, great.
But I think I'm quite superficial, and so for a while it took me a while to get here and feel there is no same thing, so contact much less physical. I remember coming here and people saying, stop touching me, because I'm very touching, and I have to tell them, don't worry, I'm not gay, I'm not trying to, but it's kind of funny. So I learned that, and sometimes I have to be very careful, thinking that I was flirting or something, but I come from a family that, in a way, I'm very thankful for that. And that's something I like about Spain. They are much more touchy, but in some way, in terms of the depth of intimacy, of communication, I really miss my English friends. Well, I got one English friend, one Kiwi, is New Zealander, but and Ranagosha, British, no Irish like this man. But there have been so many years in England that Ranagosha said, well, I'm English, something like that, But my dearest friends are really English in the UK. So I've been 7 years in Spain, and I haven't got that sense of depth of intimacy and so it can be very physical, very emotional, but it doesn't get to that level. It's interesting. So
yeah, great, thanks. So I mean, I guess like one question is, what's this got to do with spiritual life? Because it's all very interesting and valuable, isn't it? But how is this sort of? I guess I've got two questions. Like one of them is how did this test you spiritually? I mean, it's testing anyway, but how did it test you spiritually?
You mean leaving your own culture?
Yeah. And sort of discovering things about yourself that you didn't know about your conditioning, that you didn't know was your conditioning. It was just.
Yeah, I mean, I think I find that very interesting. So leaving your own culture and being in another culture, and then the whole process, once you begin to integrate, you do start getting a perspective on where you're from. And I found that really, really interesting. Very, very interesting, because I think part of the Buddhist path is sort of definitely becoming more integrated, isn't it? It's becoming a more whole person, becoming more self-aware and kind of learning what your raw ingredients are, I think. Before you can really begin to transform yourself. Otherwise the foundations aren't so strong. And I found that process of being in another culture, settling, kind of, I'd say, adapting maybe the best of another culture, because immigrants often, even if you go to another country, not for spiritual reasons, but you want a better economic life, immigrants will often do very, very well, won't they? So they'll have a fresh start in a way. They'll do well economically often. So I felt that process of kind of getting a perspective on my life, my conditioning, where I was from, and I'd say developing a sense of gratitude, I think, for my background and where I'm from, and also just developing a real sense of honesty about the shortfalls and the cultural blind spots. And I think as well, I found kind of going away allowed me to become more fully into contact what we call dukkha in Buddhism. So that's a sort of particular awareness of suffering, really. And I felt that was priceless in my time here, those two, so gratitude and getting a real sense of, I suppose, not in a heavy, debilitating way, I'll add, but the sense of suffering in my life, because without that, you're quite limited in terms of how you can transform yourself. It's held within a positivity, obviously.
So when you say that area of suffering, that's quite sounds quite deep. So is that this sort of area of really seeing the limitations of your conditioned way of approaching life? Definitely.
I think it's a sort of thorough revision of the values, I think, that you inherited as from both your family immediately and your general culture, and many of them will be very good, and it's important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, you know what I mean? But there's other ones that won't be so helpful, I think.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Great. Yeah, so that all became much more aware, much more apparent to you.
Very much so.
Going to another culture.
Very, and especially London, because I mean, it was amazing living in London. I mean, anyone can do anything, can be anything in London. I mean, it was a perfect place to.
Great, thanks, Sugarbha. How about you, Maitrighosha? Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, what was the most confrontational condition?
How has it tested you spiritually?
For me, I think mainly it was really facing kind of cultural values, and I come from a very classist society. Mexican society is very, very classist. For example, something that I was embarrassed to admit, because I come from one of the best universities in Mexico, and this idea to work with your hands, be kind of working class, and come to a warehouse, I want to stay in my family until 1 year later. And I was so happy, but so this is kind of ridiculous, and it's so arbitrary. So while I was middle class in Mexico, here nobody could tell. Just was another immigrant working class. So yeah. So that was one thing, but many other prejudices, quite strong prejudices. Yeah.
So similar, sort of, Kate. It made things apparent.
Very obvious. For me, just very clear. I think apart from asking for ordination and committing to ordination, the best second thing I did in my life is to get out from Mexico.
Really?
I really think that really faced me with my conditioning, with my kind of cultural, ethnic way of seeing things. The sense of identity, the sense of belonging. What makes me a full man, or what makes me, successful, and all that. So, probably if I stay in Mexico, I could have done much more money, but I knew I wasn't happy, so here I don't have more money, but I feel I have a very meaningful life, and I'm much happier. So
great, brilliant. I mean, it's a related question, but did the whole experience teach you anything about Buddhism, about the Dharma? Aside that sort of growth, I mean, growth in self-awareness is kind of key, isn't it, to the Dharma? But was there anything by way of sort of insights into the Dharma that the experience pointed to? Go on, let's mix it up.
No, definitely. It was like one more to add to it. I think it's added to this sense of belonging, and but mainly just bring really meaning to my life, So in Mexico, of course, this idea of having security, a good career, and here is so different. And for me, was friendship. I love meditation, study, but really what gives meaning to my life is friendship and serving. For me, it's really important, serving through Run, having a sense of not just learning for myself, but being able to in my own way try to contribute to what Trirana is doing, to trying to bring the tools of liberation, which is really important. So I think that's...
Isn't that something that you could have discovered in Mexico?
Well, true, if I could have stayed there. For example, now the movement in Mexico is very, very successful. There are more than 70 of the members, hundreds of mitras. But I think the big richness, if I see some people, it's like it really helped me to see much more clearly my own conditioning, my tendencies, and face fears. This sense of going forward, really, daring, even having certain fears, just daring to face them, and so I feel very, very lucky, very grateful for that. Many of us, we talk, thanks to Winghouse, it was really, really important time, wasn't it? It was really precious.
Do you want to just say what Winghouse is?
Winghouse training was this Buddhist company, and I was working for it 11 years, and so thanks to that I came to Cambridge, otherwise I would never have come. So I was living in a community, and I used all my holidays to go to Palmaloca, go on retreats. They used to have a bus, and I would take all the weekends I could have to go to the retreat center, and trying to support activities at Buddhist Center, do study groups. So it was a full life, but I loved it. I learned so much. It doesn't mean that it's always easy, sometimes it was. I learned something very important here, is learning to really own my own skillfulness, my stupidity, and being confronted, and learn to apologize. It's so liberating. It wasn't easy. You really swallowed my pride, but it was so liberating, and I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe I learned that before, but here it's very intense. That's the difference, you know. For example, I know in Mexico there are no communities. And,
Okay,
so I think it's something special here. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, repeat the question again.
Yeah. Any sort of insights into the Dharma that the experience of putting yourself in a different culture?
Mm.
We talked about self-awareness. I'm just curious. Is there anything?
I think if you're like Maitrighosha and me, we weren't ordained, but we were Buddhists when we went forth or left our own culture. So we left for a particular motive and reason. So I think that's important, and to pursue or deepen into Buddhism, really. And I think part of it is that I think the whole process of going to another culture and engaging in another culture, it brings things up in you. It brings things up in you, and I think one of the things is a sense of fear sometimes, because you lose your references, as I said earlier. You can feel disconnected. You can end up feeling that you're not wanted in the culture that you're in a bit. You feel like an outsider. So it brings up all of these themes that you have to work with. And in my experience, I'd say 99.9% of them are all in my head, so that's working on the mind, isn't it? And I think the other thing in terms of, I'll say, going to Spain, I had a diploma in Spanish before I went, but that really doesn't mean an awful lot. In terms of, you go into a shop or you go to the doctors, a level of confidence has to happen over time. So I think for me, a huge thing has been, doing Buddhist activities in Spanish. Teaching, to use that word, there's probably a better word to use, but Buddhism in Spanish. You pop yourself up in front of 20 people, and you're just you're just about able to do it. It's quite something. It brings you into contact with a lot of fear and doubt, and you have to work with that. But there is a bit of a kind of when you begin to develop a sense of confidence that you can do it, something changes in you as well. I think you learn more about the importance of exemplification in Buddhism. Which is very important. So there's there's something in that area of fear, confronting fear.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In a way, just listening to you both, the word courage is kind of coming to mind. That actually you're kind of going where we don't really want to go. We're kind of deeply conditioned in a way to sort of want to find a situation in which we can fit, and you're finding a situation in which you don't fit, but you're kind of stepping towards that. Which takes courage, doesn't it?
And I think as well, becoming more aware of other people, like learning how to read people, because it's a different culture,
we can take for granted so much. No?
So perhaps just turn another way round. Is, in a way, where does it lead in terms of your interactions with people of other cultures? Where does this work, this practice of internationality, which you've both engaged with very fully, where does it lead? What can we hope to us that live in our own countries and stuff? Why would we do all this? Is that clear enough? Sorry.
That's clear. I think for me, there's many, I could say a lot, but I'll just say something quite ordinary. And it's about learning how to be, it's about being open to being friends with anybody, regardless of their background, their race, or anything like that. there's something in that area, you know, you open up more to people. And I think I found I started, because I'm unfortunately quite critical by nature, so I've had to work a lot with seeing the good in other people. You know, in Triratna we have this practice called rejoicing in merits, many of you know. So just relating to people more in that sort of a way, and not having any fixed ideas. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's something about opening up more to people and being much less parochial or kind of, you know, I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah, something in that area.
Yeah, you were nodding.
Yeah, I thought something very similar.
Yeah.
I think it was really seeing beyond conventional values, you know, different ways of relating, or simply and seeing that what really we all value, you know, it's like what comes to mind really, you know, the Buddhist values, you know, that relate really to human nature. They don't relate to a particular culture or language or people. So in a way, you know, you're talking from metta, from loving kindness or compassion, and the value of mindfulness, that is, you know, CBA and direct effects, or you know, the ethics, you know, not conventional ethics, but
That's really good. I'm just kind of wondering what does that, how does that work out in, you know, in an interaction? What is it that's different? If we could see Maitrighosha before and Maitrighosha after, it's not a very easy question to answer, I'm sure.
But I'm just thinking, in a way, well, we all want to be happy. We want to be free, and certain cultures are much more suspicious of. For example, as I just mentioned, you know, Spanish culture is really suspicious of institutions or hierarchy. Spiritual hierarchy is kind of natural, it's a given tradition. So rather than insisting on that, just talking from values and see actually how it's natural. So learning how to approach that. A little bit like Sugarbha said, you know, it's like going beyond, you know, these ideas where, well, people want to become wiser. They want to learn how to live better in a simple way. So.
Could I mention one other thing? I mean, one thing that's inspired me recently, I was on a solitary retreat a few months ago. I was reading something of Arthasiddhi, who's the founder of Triratna, if you knew. And he had a vision of Triratna as a Sangha, or a community, as you know. But he also talked about it as a people. And I'd heard that in the 90s, but I'd forgot. And I was deeply inspired by that. You know, sort of a people, a culture. You know, we've all, I don't know how many people are here from different countries, but, you know, we've all got our nationalities, or so being in touch with the best of where you're from. But yet, what's most important is the, you know, following the Buddhist path and growing together. You know, people maturing spiritually together is quite a different feel to it, and I think I find that important, and I think I've always wanted that in my life, but never had never found it. You know,
right, yeah. And somehow that you've got closer to that through stepping out of your culture.
Definitely,
this sort of courageous kind of stepping out of the comfortable and known.
Definitely.
Culture. Yeah.
And
you start to experience people more as a people. Yeah. Great. There's this image, isn't there, that the Buddha gives us of all the rivers leading to the ocean, and the rivers start off with distinct identities, with distinct names, but they actually move towards the ocean, and it's his
the freedom.
Yeah, it's his vision of what it means to be Buddhist, isn't it? That we're all kind of leaving behind a sort of fixed identity and moving somewhere where somehow we are in some way the same as other people. However, I suppose I think you've already both talked about this, but well, I suppose to put it in a question, does that mean losing your distinctness? You know, have you become kind of a sort of
English,
a Norwegian English Mexican kind of splodge, you know, with no character?
I think people who know me a long time, they say, well, there is a sense of myself already, very strong conditioning, yeah. No, that's a good point. So I like to think that I have maybe there is a very strong conditioner, I suppose, so my own character and with my own limitations, but I think the thing I feel much lighter, holding much less strongly to certain ideas of identity. Or, for example, I really don't feel Mexican. I don't feel British or Spanish. Really, I feel a citizen of the world. I know it sounds like a cliche, but I've been going to Mexico. They don't believe me I'm Mexican. You know, got also many kind of Spanish words, and so it's funny. You know. I've been to USA where my sisters live, and so I said, well, here it's. So yeah, I think there is a sense of your own individuality. Yeah. But what I was going to say, related to this. Yeah, my train of thought.
Sugarbha, have you got anything else to add in that? Maybe we'll come back, Raj.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of tend to think of it. You know, I like to think my 15 years in England, I've sort of, I think I've taken on a lot of the very good things about English culture. And you know, I spent a couple of years in Australia as well, which is very important for me too. And in Spain, I feel I've become, my character has changed a bit. But I feel I'm more myself, funnily enough, a bit like you. I mean, I go back to Ireland for work, and they don't know, they kind of can't work me out, you know. But I feel I've become more myself, and I don't feel I've lost a sense of gratitude in relation to where I'm from, or a positive sense of kind of, you know, all of that. But something does change. You do become different. And I can't quite explain this, but I think the land is a big factor as well. I think we're really affected by the land that we're in. Right. Yeah. The physical land. Yeah. Great. But just to say, if I may, one last thing. I mean, I think a sort of superficial element of this is if I came here and I wanted to be an Englishman, well, how could I be an Englishman? Or if I went to Spain and I wanted to be a Spaniard, I think that's quite superficial, and people lose a sense of where they're from, and I've seen that actually, and I think that gets in the way of deepening into the Dharma as well.
Is that like a kind of playing at being Spanish?
Something like that, yeah. Or you're not. I think what it is you haven't quite come to terms with the difficulties in your culture and your background. So therefore, that's my sense.
A sort of an escaping, avoidance.
Yeah, that's right. There's not a turning to and looking at sort of something. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So unless Maitrighosha can remember his thought, you can.
Well, just very briefly, we were just in a retreat, Jaffa retreat with
10 guys from Spain.
With 10 guys from Spain, and one with very strong kind of Italian background, but it just struck me very, very different. But we all want to be free from suffering, and it was really moving, really touching, and I think that's really the core sense of humanity, really relating to people who want to be happy, want to be loved, and really want to be free from suffering, and that's really seeing the human being, not despite their way of relating, if they are loud, if they whatever, you know. I think that was really moving, really, and befriending people in that regard, and it's really disappointing that you have no idea their class. If you know, for example, I love classical music. But I came to befriend people who like hard metal, or, you know, and it doesn't matter the little things. So it's, and that's how I relate to people, not according and you know, have a snob interest or whatever. So it's what, you know, that deep sense of they wanted to get wiser. They wanted to be free from suffering, and you know, not in a sentimental way, but really learn to love. And now that's really meaningful. I mean, you know.
That's great. That's a really good place to finish. I wonder though, just at the end, if there might be one or two questions, urgent questions that I haven't thought of that are in people's minds. So I'll just pause. Maria.
I've got a question. Do you think you've become more skillful as a result of adapting to these other cultures?
Hopefully. My KMS was maybe have something to witness. Category just shaking his head. I think so. I like, you know, I think I have to be fair to myself. There is so much I would like to get better. One of the things I'm very critical of myself. I'm learning that being perfectionist is very neurotic. It's not helpful. So I think I'm more skillful. I'm definitely more ethical, but there's still a long way to go. But yes,
I think you have to become more self-reliant, and you certainly with moving to Barcelona, because there was so few of us, and we started a centre from zero. And it's, you know, 15 years going. But one of my main things was I just had to work much more on being positive, you know, cultivating skillful mental states and noticing when I wasn't in them. Yeah, that was been a key practice actually.
I can witness for Sugarbha. For me, it's very obvious. And it's very impressive learning Spanish. It's very, very impressive. So,
Any other one last question? Yes, Pinder.
Hi, just a question, and this is just for my own sanity more than anything. Did you ever feel during your travels like there was a difference in the rate of connection? Because I grew up in South Africa where people know your life story in the first 10 minutes and they'll ask you very personal, penetrating questions. And you feel like you really know someone after an hour. Whereas if you go to the UK, there's a bit of a dance. You can't ask too much too soon, but you still get there. And you still connect. So there are things that are universal with humans, but I found that the rate of connection, like how long it takes, is really the difference in the spice, and I wanted to know if you found that to be the same thing.
Do you want to go first?
Well, I think I can definitely relate to that. I was saying that the Spaniards or Latin Americans are very effusive, very direct, so it seems like, oh, really intense, but my experience is that it takes longer maybe to connect with an Englishman, but it's really reliable, really goes deep. So it's like, for example, there is a saying, you know, Mexicans tell you, mi casa es tu casa, but they don't really mean it. And an Englishman really mean, my house is your house, they really mean it. That's my experience. So yeah, this is not this very strong experience, but I think that's my sense, real sense of friendship, yeah. But yeah, it takes longer. It's not as an emotional, but it's deep. You know, at least in Tirana, maybe this more kind of a Tirana culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. In Spain, broadly speaking, I think people from the south of Spain, especially Andalusia, you know, they're very warm and they connect with you immediately, and you feel like, almost like you have a friendship, you know. But I mean, sometimes that grows into a friendship, but sometimes it doesn't. But certainly in the north of Spain, in Catalonia, the Catalans, it's a very different culture to generally Spanish culture. They have their own language, and I'd say they're quite reserved in nature. So it takes longer.
You feeling reassured?
So stay there, brother. Be patient.
Great, very good. So I'm aware of time, so maybe we'll stop for a tea break, and then we'll get a chance to go into into groups afterwards. But yeah, just to say thanks very, very much to Sugarbha and Maitrighosha for